Hello, Chicago. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner. I am your host, Kira Macoun, and we've got a really big show for you tonight. As I'm sure many of you would have likely guessed, we will be talking at length and in detail about the Highland Park shooting, the 4th of July shooting, and get a little bit also into some of the nationwide mass shootings that took place this weekend. We also have an incredible interview coming up today that I'm super excited to you, and then some other really interesting news that I can't wait to hear everybody's take on. Joining me, as always, tonight is Jerry Vasilatos. Welcome, Jerry, my co-host. Hello.
Hey,
How
Kira.
are you tonight?
Wonderful to be with you again.
I'm glad that you could make it, and I'm glad that we'll be going over the stories that we're going over tonight together. And then, as always, with us again is Mr. Ed Heller. Ed, welcome to the stream. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you. I was reminded that today is Tuesday and not Monday, and I was like, "Oh, cool!
Right. I
get to do live streams with Kira."
That's right. That's right. It's nice when it sneaks up on you, isn't it? So, and then I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat. We have Ilhanar right now. Heller, you're in the chat and on the stream. How do you do it?
Very bad multitasking, but I try.
Yeah. You are doing a great job, my friend, as always. So yeah, I don't want to take up too much time at the beginning of this video because we have so much to cover and so much to comb through. But I do want to remind everybody to be sure to like and share and subscribe to our page. We want to make sure to start really amplifying what we're doing here at Chicago Corner, not only because I believe that Chicago is basically a microcosm of what's going on in our country, largely. So follow what's going on in Chicago. You can probably see what's going on across the U.S. But also, I'd love to encourage other independent media outlets to be doing this in their own cities, because I think it's important that we get as many people and as many eyes and ears to the ground as we can across the nation with independent news and media. So be sure, like I said, to like, share, and subscribe. And also, you are able to give us super chats. So if you want to talk money, we will happily take it.
We'll take your tip.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we do a pretty decent job of reading and sharing comments from our audience, because our audience does make up a lot of the commentary of the show. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get a little tip. So don't be shy. That's all I'm saying. All right. So without much further ado, I'm going to go ahead and launch us into the story that everybody has been anticipating today. And as most of you watching this broadcast probably already know, there was an active rooftop shooter during the Highland Park, Illinois 4th of July parade around 10:15 a.m. on Monday, yesterday, on the 4th of July. And before we get too far into the details and what has happened since then, I want to share with our audience a little bit of what the scene looked like that day as people were there at the parade. So here we go.
That's the video I was talking about.
So you can hear there are several shots fired.
Loud ones too. Scary.
Very scary.
Unbelievable.
And gratefully, it doesn't seem like it was outrageously crowded.
Well, that's a very long stretch, Kira. Have you been to Highland Park?
No, I haven't.
When this video's done, I want to show you a video that the shooter took that was on his YouTube channel to show the expanse of Highland Park.
Right on. Okay.
Ready?
Let me go ahead and stop this sharing, and I'd love to see that because I don't think I've
Okay.
seen that yet.
It's a long stretch. Now, keep in mind, this video was on his social media YouTube channel, and really pay attention to what audio he has playing. I didn't add the audio to this video. The audio you're going to hear was on the video he put on YouTube.
Okay.
That was an emergency alert broadcast audio that he put with that video while he was riding his bike or skateboard or hover, whatever it was, through downtown Highland Park. It's a very, very long stretch of downtown Highland Park. And although a lot of the snippets of video that we've seen on social media kind of make it look like it's a small corner, there were a lot of people there. And I think that also the videos taken from different vantage points were showing, the limited amount of people at each vantage point that were fleeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's no way of knowing, at what point any of those recordings started or, what part of the streets were more crowded. I will be showing a video a little bit later of an Orlando incident that, is a total disaster, and only because of the size of the crowd. And so there are so many things that go into the implications of what we're dealing with here when it comes to gun violence in America, right? And we're going to get into that tonight, man.
Kira, pause for just a second, because I want to cue this video. I know it's going to go into the screen, but I'm going to stop it. I just kind of want to have it ready
that is fine.
When we use it. Okay, so it's cued. I'm taking it off, but it's there for this was the video I talked about. That was the red flag, but it's ready for when you want to show it.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be actually the next video. So perfect timing. So authorities said a seventh person, it was just reported that a seventh person has died because of this Highland Park parade attack. And they've released those names now. And at least 30 others were injured. I want to make sure to, for us to pay our respects to those who did pass. Catherine Goldstein, 64, of Highland Park. Irina and Kevin McCarthy, 35 and 37, of Highland Park. They left behind a 3-year-old son. Jacqueline Sunheim, 63, of Highland Park. Whew. Nicholas Toledo Zaragoza, 78, of Morales, Mexico. And Stephen Strauss, 88, of Highland Park. And the seventh person hasn't been identified yet by authorities. So Robert E. Cremo III, 21, was detained hours after the shooting Monday as a person of interest in the case. And he has been charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder in what Lake County State's Attorney Eric Reinhardt called a premeditated and calculated attack. Police described finding evidence that he had disguised himself in women's clothing to avoid being captured after he fired a high rifle styled in the fashion of an AR-15 at strangers more than 70 times. He used a ladder attached to a building in that vicinity to climb atop a business and fire sniper style from there. And police have said they've recovered the rifle at the scene.
He had a Lee Harvey Oswald fascination, because in his videos, he's got the headline of Lee Harvey Oswald on the wall. And it's like, he imagined he was like in the sniper's nest like Oswald. Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought that was a fascinating detail, that like he was using the same kind of an MO.
Absolutely. And, it's very clear that he wanted people to know about it, about what he was going to be up to as well. And yeah, Jerry, good eye on seeing the Oswald paraphernalia essentially in the back of his videos, because I don't think I would have noticed that. Cremo had illegally bought that rifle, along with at least one more, as well as some pistols, before carrying out an attack that had evidently been planned for weeks. And
I would say maybe a year, given how many videos he had on his YouTube that were like literally signaling this was on his mind.
Yeah, and it was Chris Covelli, the leader of the police task force, who said that. And authorities also revealed that police have had 2 other prior contacts with Cremo, both in 2019. I just got it right before we
Wow.
signed,
Okay, cool,
right
cool.
before we got on. One involved concerns that the suspect would commit suicide, and the other was over threats about killing family members. He had also posted dozens of videos with ominous songs showing images of himself or cartoon figures holding rifles with threatening messages. And YouTube has taken down Cremo's page, where he was known as Awake the Rapper. Instagram and Twitter have also terminated his accounts. But we did manage to grab some of those videos before they were all terminated. And Jerry, before you play the last video that you think is the most important in really giving us a clue as to how long he might have been planning this attack, do you or Ed want to share anything about the information that I just gave?
I think it's very interesting. While I understand, and you and I talked about this before the show when I was driving home from Hardlands, I understand that they do not want to give this guy the attention he thought he would get by scrubbing all of his social media, getting rid of his Facebook page where he had 500 followers, getting rid of his YouTube channel where he had 131 followers for the past 2 or 3 years, and getting rid of his Instagram. Yeah, takes him out of the public eye and doesn't give him the attention he wanted. But it's curious to me that while you, Kira, or I might have a comment reflecting our freedom of speech on Facebook,
right,
and suspending our account because we might use a word like abortion or any of their other AI automatic censorship words, this guy thrived on all these social media platforms for 3 years with these videos, all these followers, and I would opine that the reason they're scrubbing this all from the internet is also to cover up the fact that, in light of the fact you just said he had 2 run-ins with police previously, all this stuff was out in the open, obviously nobody was paying attention or taking him seriously. His uncle did an interview last night, and certainly his uncle's probably not as connected as his parents are in his daily activities. But his uncle said, no, there were no warning signs. We had no idea. We're well respected in the community. We feel horrible for all the people in Highland Park who were affected by this. Great. Sorry for the trauma your family now has to carry. But don't give me this bullshit that there were no signs or signals when he had all these really well-produced music and rap videos. And you and I, Kira, know how much it costs to produce media, what the budgets are to put good production values into things, that his parents and his family, who claimed he was just living in a basement apartment with his face tattoos and running around as a rapper on social media, and the fact that what you just cited, his parents were worried about a suicide or they were threatened by him. The kid had mental health issues that were completely ignored. The family may have been in complete denial about how to handle it, and this is the aftermath. My hearts go out more to the victims of the massacre in Highland Park. I can only imagine how hard it must be for his family and the fact that they now have to live with the fact that they didn't get this kid the help he needed, that they should have gotten him, despite their incredibly bad lapse in judgment of recognizing they had a ticking time bomb with a lot of mental health issues right under their noses, and that they could have done something about it. And the videos that I was able to grab off of his archive, see, what happened was immediately everybody went to social media to check out his social media pages. And as I was screen grabbing stuff from YouTube, boom, the YouTube channel disappears. And we got some stuff. Thankfully, Ed, you shared the archive link where someone, who was faster than me could archive these videos. But let me share with you, Kira, what I think is like the most red flag video that was on YouTube for a while. I think it was posted last year.
All right.
All right, enough. I don't want to give this guy that much attention, and that's actually not the other video I had seen, which I will just give you a sense of. I don't want to run any more videos with him. Johnny Comes Marching Home Again in the classroom with all the weird paraphernalia and graphic and imagery. The other video that I miscued this, I'm sorry, but the other video that I wanted to share, the lyrics were, I know what I got to do. I don't know why I got to do it, but it's coming. very loosely paraphrasing the lyrics with imagery of him in that classroom, imagery of him in front of that Lee Harvey Oswald headline. It was all literally like what was happening in his brain. And that video, that I think it was probably the most recent video that was on his YouTube until they scrubbed his channel. I may be wrong about that, but what struck me was that was literally like, get ready, folks. I don't know what's compelling me to do this, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to take a moment to queue up that video, Jerry,
I'll see if I can find it. Yeah. Well, you and Ed continue. Yeah. All right.
And I want to get any commentary that Ed has so far about anything we've covered.
Yeah, I think we've covered most of the stuff that I gathered in the initial thoughts, and then of course you updated with the seventh victim passing from this terrible event, and it sounds like to me that this guy has basically been signaling that he was going to do something, or was at least interested in doing something like this for quite some time, and if I mean, I was curious as to how many people were actually subscribed to his YouTube page or his Facebook or Twitter or whatever. How many of those people watched all the content that he was delivering, and no red flags stood out to any of these people?
Right.
You guys didn't think maybe this guy might need some help. He might hurt himself or others.
Yeah.
I know we have a problem in this nation and in the state with not having enough mental health facilities and healthcare and all the other support systems that other civilized nations have. But this guy was throwing off a bunch of red flags.
Yeah.
I don't know why nobody saw it. I can understand if like a parental figure like his uncle maybe was turning a blind eye to that. He's thinking, well, this kid's being creative with this stuff, and I didn't want to, and maybe he's too busy with his job or whatever to really pay super close attention. I don't want to put a fault on all the parents on this, but if you're a parental figure and you see anything that even remotely resembles the type of imagery that he's putting in his content, I'd say have a talk with the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I found the video. Let me cue it, but I'll wait till you guys are finished talking and then we can run it.
Yeah, all I was going to say in response to what Ed is saying is like I think we're really past the point now of like just assuming like kids are going to be kids, right? Like, or these young people that we see all of these warning signs from, and they're not being taken seriously. And I think that we see issues with taking everything too seriously, certainly, but then we also see the other extreme of it, where it's like very, very serious and obvious signals are being ignored. Because I want to be careful in saying that, like, if you're a rapper and you want to rap about fuck the police, right? Like,
right, but
you ought to be able to do that without like repercussions of like mind policing, right?
And even that might encourage a parent to just talk and make sure the kid's okay. This guy had imagery of like mass shootings. Let me say this: I've got 6 nephews. Okay, thankfully they've got really good parents because my siblings are super parents, right? But I got to tell you, if I saw something remotely close as an uncle, because I follow their Instagram and social media, I know they're on YouTube. They're not on YouTube, but they watch a lot of YouTube, but the older ones are on Instagram. Had I ever seen anything even close to this, I would have had a conversation with my brother or my sisters and said, look, I don't know what's going on, but maybe you're not aware of this, but you need to maybe just consider this, okay? An uncle should not have to do that when a parent's responsibility is to kind of keep track of what their kids are doing under their noses in their households on their social media. It's not that hard. So while obviously I'm not coming in here as like I'm the last person to like advocate for the tone police, because let me tell you, I get tone policed within my family for my opinions and how I rant.
Too,
okay, so we're kindred spirits. I actually went through it today with somebody on my Facebook who misunderstood my profile picture of the bloody flag not being disrespectful to America. It's disrespectful like the ideals that America's supposed to be being completely just disregarded because we have inept leadership that's not willing to do more about the gun violence epidemic in our country, and this is the cost of it. Okay. So I mean, I kind of went off on a tangent, but getting back to the point, to Ed's point and yours, none of us want to tone police people, but when it reaches the degree of what this guy was sharing on social media, it's like all hands on deck, get this kid some mental health help, because something ain't right there. Okay,
Yeah,
I know I get
it's not about censorship here.
No.
Although it kind of travels in similar ways adjacently
Yes.
when it comes to
Thank you.
content online. Which is why if anybody would be at fault also in this, it would be YouTube, because of their automation of their algorithms,
Right.
and they don't have humans actually reviewing the videos anymore.
Yes.
But you or I will get nailed, Ed. You or I will get nailed for one word or a copyright strike when we're doing fair use shit to share news on our show. And this guy's channel was up for 2 years with 131 followers, and these videos with graphic massacre imagery, drawings of people shooting people. It's like, whoa, this shows how broken the system is when it chooses to cancel and censor people for sharing their opinions or their viewpoints rationally, even if we disagree, because it makes other people uncomfortable. Really? What are you assholes at big tech doing about these videos, or at least seeing those videos to decide maybe we got to flat? You know what?
Maybe we alert somebody to this. We don't need to take it. Maybe even take it down.
I don't want to make big tech responsible for this, but as big
they're certainly not aware.
If they're going to take on the responsibility of telling people what they can and cannot have in their content, then they're kind of by association putting themselves in the position where they should actually have human beings looking at the content. And if they see something that looks like, for example, a snuff film, they're going to call the police on that, or the FBI or something. I'm not saying you should do that for everybody, but I'm saying you see something that looks not quite right and you think maybe that person needs help. Say something.
Yeah.
I want to throw a quick shout out to the live chat. Okay, even a broken clock is right twice a day. To his comment. Thank you for sharing, Constitutional Conservative.
Constitutional Conservative. I didn't even read the name. I was like, oh, I agree. That's really funny.
Actually, another good point. Yes.
I love our audience. I love our audience for that reason, because I actually love disagreement.
I love the interactivity. Yeah, economic disparity is the root cause of many issues in our society. Absolutely. And the economic disparity and the fact that our resources are going to the wrong things. It's not, I know this is where the disagreement's going to come in. It's not to increasing the amount of police on the street, Constitutional Conservative. It's about directing those resources to investing in communities, mental health, giving kids opportunities for a job earlier, cleaning up these communities that look like demilitarized zones that have been abandoned after a war in the most segregated city in the country, as we're talking about Chicago. But I'm filibustering. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So let's bring up that last video.
All right.
Jerry.
Here's the creepy one.
Arrest. Yeah, here we go.
All right. Buckle up.
So I stop for a second and think to myself, I don't need you or anything else. I'm immortal in these pages that discontinue. I'm an issue, I need maintenance. I'm so impatient and brittle. I either sleep way too much or not enough at all. I swear it isn't drugs, it's just insomnia. I'm feeling so fed up, I'm feeling under pressure. I've been traveling too far, hyperbolic chamber can't measure out of balance. I couldn't stand it, felt out of place within this breaking state of panic. I swear I need you, but I also don't. I've been falling, kinda feeling like I'm floating. Day after day I've been wasting away, escaping the game that I wanted to play. Maybe if we would've waited a second, forever is destined no longer today. Memories faded, our sentences breaking from panic attacks and all the pain. Feelings I hate them, I want you to take them and smash them to pieces. I want you to change, I'm feeling courageous, I'm ripping my pages so all these faces just fade away into the blanks. Been tripping for ages, so tired of waiting. I know I'm impatient, falling to pieces. I puzzle my thesis, my thinking's corrupted, I just wanna sleep. All I do is think about the past, and I'm falling too fast to look and see. You are out of this world. You are out of this world. You are out of this world.
Now, I couldn't make out all the lyrics. I could have swear that there was a video where he was talking about how he had to do something that, it was almost like he was hearing voices. There's so many videos, but I think that's kind of representative also of like what was going on inside this kid's head, as far as just needing, and it's like, oh, he's a piece of shit. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's clearly he was a piece of shit who needed help. And unfortunately, so many other people's lives are now impacted by this. The empathetic side of myself, without condoning what happened, says on one level, it's like, man, for someone to be in that much pain and be that lost and not get the help that they need or the attention that they need. Yes, Kathy, I see such a broken person, is testimony to the fact that we're left speechless as to what ends up happening.
And the other piece that we haven't mentioned is that symbol that keeps showing up in all of his videos is actually a Finnish white supremacist organization sign called Suomen Sisu. I think that's also a red flag.
Yeah. He was, although people who know him, friends, have said he has no political ideology. They've already dug up the fact that he's a Trump supporter. He was at a couple of rallies. He was dressed up as Waldo. I'm not going to sit here and say Trump incited him, but I'm also going to say that couldn't have been good for his mental health. When we talk about the fact that he's got white supremacist symbols and everything else, his brokenness.
And then, as Jerry mentioned before, and you guys probably saw in that video, the newspaper article on the wall, and behind him was Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yep. That right there, huh? Yep.
How about that? And then he goes and he gets into a sniper's perch on top of that corner building. I mean, if that's not premeditated, it's like all the stuff was in his mind, even though this video was up a year ago. We had a year to look at this stuff. Finally, and someone else made a good point. He took advantage of the event that people have been dying to get out to since everybody's been on lockdown during the pandemic. Okay, everybody finally, the pandemic's kind of passed. We can go out and celebrate with our families on 4th of July. I was at the 4th of July picnic up in Gilson Park with my sister, her little boy, Alexander, her husband, my mother. And as I saw that crowd, I swear to God, on Sunday, I saw a lot of police presence there. And I said, it's good police are here because this is a pretty big crowd. I hated that it went through my mind. But I thought, what if something happened here? Now, on one final note, my brother's in-laws were at that Highland Park picnic. Steve and Liz. And by virtue of being my brother, they're my in-laws too. They're very nice people. And I saw them take to social media and said, we just escaped the gunfire in Highland Park. And Liz made some very prescient comments on Instagram. They were lucky to get out of there alive, or I might be talking to you as someone who actually lost extended family at what happened yesterday.
That's, not good. Not good. Covelli, who was the head of police of this task force, said that investigators hadn't been tipped off to the videos before shooting, which is, something, again, like it's unfortunate. And like, I think that as an American community, we have to actually start taking these things seriously. When people talk about killing other people, really looking at the situation and saying, is this person capable of that? i.e., do they have the firepower to do that kind of thing? Because, that would be number one. Obviously, it's easily accessible, but if someone who doesn't have that at their fingertips says something, maybe there's a way to decipher. But really what I'm hearing is just like with every one of these school shootings, with this shooting, so many of them are premeditated and they are being openly expressed, which is really, really, I don't know what that says about us. Like as a community, as an American family, that we're not actually speaking up and saying like, hey, A, are you okay? You know, and B, like alerting people to social media that is openly, I mean, or even in the schools, right? We heard about a recent school shooter, I forget which one because there are so many, drawing about killing people.
We just
right
came
in
out
the
of
school.
Uvalde. We just came out of Uvalde, what, 2 weeks ago? I also want to clarify something really quick. I really feel I need to address this. Why do I call all broken people pieces of shit? Kathy, I don't call all broken people pieces of shit. I call sociopaths who are impacting other people's lives, hurting people, and killing people pieces of shit, whether it's abusive cops who violate their oath of service, or whether it's this mentally challenged, this broken kid who didn't get the help. He's a piece of shit because he decided he was going to take it out on other people and effect tragedy and basically put tragedy on other families' lives. So I hope that you understand, Kathy. I don't call all broken people pieces of shit. It's the ones that cause harm to and decide that they're going to break other people because they can't get their shit together, get the help to get their shit together, where I kind of lose my shit. So just want to clarify that. And by the way, yes, he was constitutional conservative. Go look it up on Google. You can find the
I was
pictures.
about to ask about
I'm not going to argue it anymore. He was. End of conversation.
There's literally video of him at a right outside when Trump was visiting from the airport with his motorcade. So, he wasn't covering it for a news event. He's not working for independent media. The guy was there because he wanted to be there.
And his father was a Trump supporter, who, by the way, I reported on this. I talked about this on Hardlands Media today. His father's last tweet was the day after the Uvalde massacre, where he decided to retweet someone else's comment about the importance of the Second Amendment so we could protect ourselves. And his father was a Trump supporter also. Okay? So let's get off this bullshit about everybody's panties in a bunch because he was a Trump supporter. It is what it is. Did Trump incite him and tell him to go shoot people? No. But don't avoid the fact that he was certainly possibly inspired by a certain ideology with his white supremacist symbol and all this other nonsense and gun nuttery. Okay.
Yeah, the white supremacy
also,
symbol is probably the most telling for me on where his political ideation lies. So, go ahead.
Let's be clear. Voting harder is not going to fix this. It doesn't matter what side of the duopoly that you may land on, if at all. This is not a red versus blue thing. This is a civilization versus not civilization thing.
Although they certainly like to pit us against each other with it, don't they, Ed? And fundraise off of it. You know the Democratic fundraising mails you're going to get now to do gun control, even though, I don't know, every time they had a majority, they had an opportunity to try to do something about it?
They could do something about it now. They're going to make excuses as to why they don't, and it's because they don't want to.
I said it on Hardlands.
Prove me wrong anytime now.
Hashtag if the Second Amendment's going to be thrown in all our faces and everybody has a right to an AR-15, when the Second Amendment had everything only to do with having arming yourself to have a well-regulated militia. That's been twisted into everybody should have guns. You know what? Fine. Have your guns, have your AR-15s, but I've been screaming this for several shows now. Hashtag regulate ammunition. If we can't get our elected officials to stand up to these fucking lobbyists and the NRA that tells us, the Second Amendment gives you the right to a gun, don't let anybody take that right away, while they're taking away reproductive rights from women, that's a health issue. I don't see anything in the Second Amendment that says you got a right to ammunition. So why don't we start getting our elected officials to ally themselves with lawyers who know how to twist themselves into pretzels over everything else, to use the law to their advantage, to start putting it through Sorry, not everybody's going to have the ability to get ammunition. And some other knuckleheads over at Hardlands Media in the chat, oh, well, people can make their ammunition. That's going to solve the problem. Not going to solve the problem, but it's going to make it much, much harder. Okay, not everybody's got a workshop to make ammunition in their basements, dickheads. Wow, I saw some of those comments after the Hardlands Media show. All the gun fanatics. Oh, well, regulating ammunition's not going to do it. At what point do you try to find a solution, then, dickheads, that is going to prevent people from using a fucking AR-15 to mow down a 4th of July crowd or a schoolroom full of children? You want to have a handgun or a rifle for home protection? I'm not against that so long as you get licensed, you get the correct background check, but nobody needs a fucking AR-15 or one of these automatic. Every mass shooting we see, it's these kind of weapons. It's not for hunting. It's not for home security. It's a weapon of mass destruction. It's a military-grade weapon. So great, you want to run around with your military-grade AR-15, show off what a tough guy you are? That's fine, but you don't get the ammunition. Thank you. Yes. Yep, yeah, that was the thing I shared on Hardlands Media today. Yeah.
And honestly, what's wrong with Nerf? I like those Nerf dart guns. They're pretty badass. You could still run around with those things. You can, have your little fake wars, playing Nerf dart war against your buddies, and it's plenty of fun. It's not dangerous. At the worst, you might poke somebody's eye out temporarily, but you wear protective eyewear. Everybody's happy. You get to play with your big, gigantic Nerf dart guns, and then everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah,
That was for Ed.
That's right.
Sorry, Kira. I hit the button as you were starting to talk.
It's all good. I love the little takes. So I want to share a few of the guest. What the fuck am I talking about? Some of the comments from
No. It's not implied. Ammunition is not implied. Okay, it's not. Period.
Let me play devil's advocate just for a moment here, Jerry.
All right.
The right to bear arms is like a protection thing. So yeah, you're with your muskets. Yeah, you should be able to have a bag of powder and whatever those round bullet things are, along with your musket, and that is protected in the Constitution. In the Second Amendment.
You're right.
Everything else is bonus.
That's right.
You can't have grenades. You can't have missiles.
Yep.
You can't have rocket launchers. I don't know if you can have trebuchets, but that'd be pretty cool. The right to bear trebuchets.
That would be.
But
right.
no, not bullets.
I'm going to move this conversation along because we still have so much to cover, and we actually have our guest who's entered our green room.
I told you, Kira, we were going to go.
I knew it, which is why I knew I needed to reel this shit in, you guys.
I just looked at the time, so you're right. Let's move on.
It's all good. We got plenty to cover, but we can do it quickly, and I also want to make sure that I, highlight people who agree with me. I agree with Kira, but my biggest fear is that we do take things if we do take things serious, liberals are going to twist it into a way that bothers Black, brown, and poor people more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's always an issue.
That's what I get nervous about when we're looking at videos, right? And we're analyzing them like it means that they're going to do something because their lyrics have it, right? Like that gets me a little nervous, right?
But I don't see rappers deciding to put up like stick figures of people shooting each other and police shooting them. I mean, well, maybe in police shooting them, I can kind of see.
I haven't watched a rap video in a while, but
I have. The last rap video I watched was from a Chicago artist who in the video basically like threatened to murder the woman he was dating in the video.
Wow.
Now I know the rapper. He's married to a completely different woman. Who that woman in the video was an actress, and it was a part of the song. And and like the last thing I would want is for that person. Now should someone say, hey, maybe
But
you
a
keep an eye
stranger-
on this person,
Yeah.
right?
Or ask him, "You okay, man? You're not
yeah,
gonna
you
go,
okay? Is something like,
put a hole in
so
somebody,
it
right?"
starts to get really sticky when we start to get into the conversation for art. In
agree.
my opinion.
It's a slippery.
Okay.
No, you're right. It is a slippery slope, and you got a good point. I don't watch a lot of rap videos to know what a lot of the imagery is like. I mean, the fact that that guy was dramatizing something.
I enjoy hip hop a lot.
Okay. Well, you know better than I do.
Yeah. So that starts to be my worry when we start to take lyrics seriously. Okay, so let's get into basically, and I'm not gonna show the video just for the interest of time, but it was interesting. He did get arrested in the evening. I watched it live, but Ed, you shared a video that I did not catch in the live footage that I watched, where basically the police, the person in the squad car asked, could you do me a favor?
Yeah, how polite.
We're
going to plug 60.
Get down.
If it's not too much trouble, could you slow down and maybe stop your car and then, think about, I don't know, in the next, 5 or 10 minutes, maybe putting your hands out and surrendering.
But if you're unarmed and black, we're going to shoot you 60 times getting out of your car.
That's right. Yeah.
The Highland Park, look, as funny as it is, I would say the Highland Park police actually did it the way it should be done. Would every law enforcement official afford any potential black people of color that they decide to arrest the same courtesy? Thank you. Especially when they're unarmed and don't present any danger and haven't mowed down 6 people and injured another 20.
Exactly.
Yeah, just
exactly.
Be consistent.
Yeah.
That's important. Consistency.
So I did want to highlight that piece, and everything we're talking about, all videos, everything, even the archives of Cremo's videos is all in our description notes, y'all. So just be sure if you want to dig a little bit deeper into everything we're talking about, it's all there, my friends. So before we bring in our guest, I did want to highlight some other really alarming news. And that is that basically there were about a dozen other cities that reported mass shootings over the weekend, not just Chicago. So for all of those politicians who want to use Chicago as like the centerpiece of your violence, think again. It's just America. It's, it's just the entire nation.
And Highland Park isn't exactly Chicago either.
Snake Plissken use. Do you guys ever remember the Snake Plissken movies, Escape from New York and Escape from L.A.?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Land of the free is how he'd always sarcastically comment on all this nonsense we're seeing. Greatest country in the world.
No, what I keep saying is freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, you guys. That's what I.
Well, he was being sarcastic when he said it.
As am I when I say freedom isn't free, of course.
Okay.
So yes. Okay, so let me just list off some of these mass shootings across the nation. In Philadelphia, scores of people watching a 4th of July fireworks show ran for cover when gunshots rang out, forcing them to leave behind strollers and other personal items. Very similar to the story that we heard with Highland Park, right? 2 police officers were actually shot near the Philadelphia Museum of Art shortly after the event started, and both officers were transported to the Jefferson University Hospital and are in stable condition. So what is interesting, we have a little bit of footage from that as well, and let me see if I can bring it up in a smooth and clean way with just a little bit of filibustering here, NBD, right? So we have, this is the scene at Ben Franklin Parkway in Philadelphia during an active shooting on Monday as well. The people filming have no idea what's going on.
My God, look at this.
So this video goes on for about 2 minutes, and you just see streams of people running.
So July 4th wasn't a twofer, it was a threefer. As far as shootings go across the country.
July 4th was a dozener, actually. Here's the
mass shootings? A dozen mass shootings?
Shootings.
It's just Highland Park was the worst. That's the why it dominated.
Shootings. 3 people were killed in Gary, Indiana, and 7 people injured on. So mass shooting is 4 people injured at least, right? A mass killing is 4 people killed.
Okay.
That's the difference, okay? So 3 people killed in Gary, Indiana, and 7 people injured early Monday morning in a shooting at what appeared to be a holiday block party. In Minneapolis, Minnesota on Monday, 8 people were injured, several of them critically, in a shooting in Boom Island Park. 1 person was killed and 4 were injured during a shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. All of those victims were adults. In Sacramento, California, a 31-year-old man was killed and 4 people were injured when shots were fired at a club. On Monday morning, 4 people were injured in a shooting in Kansas City, Missouri, and 6 were injured in a shooting in Richmond, Virginia. Other shootings, mass shootings over the weekend were reported in Mullen, South Carolina, Tacoma, Washington, Manassas, Virginia, Clinton, North Carolina, Haltman City, Texas, and New York City. And then there's also the story of the stampede in Orlando when there was no shooter at all. So there was a stampede in Orlando where there was no shooter. Do you want to know why? Because everyone knows this is coming to their town. So basically, somebody in this crowd, let me go ahead and get that video. So there is actually no known shooter.
That one got away.
No, there wasn't one.
There wasn't a shooter at all.
It was just a rumor.
Okay.
It was just somebody started running in the rear. They think somebody was lighting off fireworks in another part of the park.
You can never tell anymore what the difference is sometimes.
No, that's what I'm saying is like,
yeah.
You just, because everybody knows this is coming to their town.
They react that way. Yeah.
Hold on. That was not the video. Oh, I was already watching it.
Summer starts here.
Great.
Soak up
Now
recipes,
we get to
classes,
watch
and fresh
an ad.
inspiration.
So
Dive
sorry,
in at
everybody.
JewelOsco.com.
It's all right. It always happens.
The worst. Okay, so everybody's watching here. This watching goes on a while. So, and then apparently somebody hears something, and nobody really knows where it started. I thought you see 2 people running across the front there, but nothing happens. Nothing's happening. And then,
oh my God! It's like a stampede.
Loose, you guys.
They're all expecting it now. Whoa!
Look at those people jumping over those bushes, fucking crawling. They're terrified. We are traumatized. We are traumatized. The nation. Look at these people. There is no active shooter here.
That's what the crowd looked like at Gilson Park when I was sharing earlier. I was there on Sunday with my sister and her family and my mom, and I looked at that's the size of the crowd. Will you get your butt out of the way? When I thought, thank goodness all these police are out here, up in a nice affluent suburban community up in Wilmette, because what if something happened here? It did kind of cross my mind, given I think I was probably reflecting on Uvalde, even though it wasn't, a holiday situation. I was thinking this is where a mass shooter would definitely be able to do a lot of damage. Yep, Ilhanner, agreed. Did Kira freeze? You still there?
It looks like she's frozen.
Okay, she'll be back.
Okay. While we're waiting for Kira to come back, I think we have a guest coming up very shortly too. From is it Chicago Gig Alliance or Gig Drivers United?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So stick around for that, and we are. Let's see if we have any other things that we can show video wise.
Yeah. Here. That'll get us the copyright strike. So Kira dropped out of the studio. I'm sure she's probably refreshing her browser on that end to be able to log in. I know that we have Norberto Casas standing by, and I do not, Norberto, I know you're there. I don't want to bring you in because Kira is your interviewer. So just kind of be patient here. Why is my flashing lights behind me? Is that because of Oreo doing something? Look at this. Got all my mood lighting is off. Oh, now it's off. Now it's there. She is.
What had happened? I left for 2 minutes, and throwing his guns off here.
Yeah, no, there we go. Wait, I'm trying to put you in the right spot here.
Okay.
There you go. All right, she's back.
I made it. Okay, so I don't know what was said after I went frozen, but are there any more thoughts that we want to share in regards to
I think
Highland
we're
Park
good.
shooting?
No, we're good.
We
went to a please stand by, so we're good.
Oh, right on. Super sweet. Okay, so a little bit of a shift in our conversation now. I always feel a little awkward doing that. That's okay. You guys get it. You're there with me. You're generous. I love you all. So we actually have a guest on the show tonight, and I love having guests because I am a nosy woman, all right? So I want to know all about what's going on in other people's lives, first of all, right? But secondly, like what people in our communities are doing to make their lives and each other's lives better. So I want to introduce Norberto Casas. He is a community activist and a member of the Hispanic Community Collaborative and the Chicago Gig Alliance. He is also a father of 2 CPS students and a passionate advocate for in-person instruction. And I think he just went away right as I was introducing him.
Right when I said just stand by till Kira comes back because I can't do this interview because I'm not – there he is.
There he is. There he is.
Thanks for being patient.
You. Yes. Thank you for your
Can
patience.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear us?
Excellent.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know that there was a lot going on between the time that we first started communicating about getting you on the show and today. So I appreciate your patience and your generosity with me and also with just, the way a show runs. And sometimes it runs a little bit late. So thank you for your patience. Before we launch too far into like the specific organizations that you're involved with, Norberto, I want our audience and me and Jerry also, and Ed, who's behind the scenes now, to learn just a little bit more about you, about what you do, your background, where do you live in or around the city, and how did you get involved in activism?
That is an excellent question.
That's what
I'll answer it the best way I can. About 3 years ago, I was a 260-pound guy who was happily married with 2 kids watching the Bears games. Fast forward, pretty much post-pandemic, I am going through a divorce with 2 CPS kids. And one thing about going through a divorce after you've accepted everything, you have a lot of free time. So when you have this free time, you kind of try to devote it to things that you have a passion about.
I can relate.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did during the pandemic is, Hispanic parents, Black parents, white parents, we all pretty much made an organization and we put pressure on the CTU and CPS to reopen the schools. So we did that because my kindergartner was failing kindergarten because kindergarten wasn't made to be 100% remote learning. So that's kind of what got my foot in the door with activism. I'm a resident of Brighton Park. I have 2 CPS students currently. And right now, my fight is for living wages, for safety measures, and for rideshare drivers to be able to get their jobs back. So we've introduced an ordinance with the leadership of Alderman Roderick Sawyer, 6th Ward. And it was introduced in February to the City Council, and we're working our way through that committee so we can hopefully by the fall get a full vote.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about the circumstances that ignited that fire underneath of you to get that passed and to build power in that way. Like what, can you give us like the story of what happened to you personally, or maybe people that that had that fire lit under you?
Really what it was that, we were getting, 75, 80% of our net pay from the gross. So the company would get 20% and the drivers would get 80%. So as the years went by, it would go from that to 70-30 to 60-40 to 50-50.
Jesus.
And somehow it didn't seem right. It was like, okay, so we're working more than before to make the same amount.
It wasn't right when it hit. It wasn't right when it hit 30%.
Exactly. So
20 or less.
Most companies, they want to keep people that are reliable, that are timely, that they can count on, and they want to pay them the same or better or increase benefits. That's not really the way rideshare works. They want to nickel and dime you. They want you to absorb all pass-through costs. You know, I also have a background in commercial real estate, so I lease out a lot of commercial spaces. And when property taxes go up on the building, then I need to have a conversation with the tenant and tell him I'm going to have to raise his rent. And lo and behold, I'll go to the barber shop maybe 2 months later, and the haircut that used to be $12 is now $15 because it's a pass-through cost. It gets passed through directly to the end user. That's not the way rideshare works. They're really making the drivers absorb all costs. I used to be able to fill up my gas tank with $55 to $60. I filled it up today at $110.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's a rideshare. I have no idea how you can squeeze the numbers to be able to keep doing what you're doing with the gas costs.
That was actually going to be one of my questions. Like, how are you stretching gas? Like, no, Jerry, I love it. I love that you're jumping in. Yeah. So how do you do that?
You become more selective of the time frames you're going to work. So as an example, I'll probably work tonight, say 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. because that's really the evening, late night rush. People are leaving restaurants. People are leaving whatever activities they're doing, their tennis clubs or whatever it is, to go home. So that late night rush is really like 9 to 12. So I'll become more selective. So instead of working, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and be stuck in traffic and burn all my fuel, I would rather wait a few hours and work the late night rush. That way I'm able to get from point A to point Z twice as fast.
Yeah, traffic is flowing better. That makes complete sense, given all the congestion we're dealing with now in the city with bike lanes, and construction, and everything else.
Construction always. Well, and during the first quarter of 2022, ride-hailing drivers in the Chicago metropolitan area were making about $13.99 per trip. And during the first quarter of 2022, grocery couriers were making about $16.14 a trip. How many trips are completed in an hour on average, would you say?
I'd say if you're lucky, 3.
Okay. And that's if you're strategizing the time of day, right? Right? You're not stuck in freaking traffic if you're picking up 3 people, right? So what does that do to the customers?
See, that's the tricky part, is that the customers are paying about the same or more than before, but the drivers are making less. Their net on net is lower because gas prices have gone up 75%.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Sorry to step in here, but yeah, the customers are definitely paying more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so from Ed's I don't use rideshare or food delivery, so I have no idea.
Both sides are getting screwed in this deal. The only people making out like bandits are the rideshare corporate offices.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we've been proposing is an ordinance on the scale of Seattle's model, on the scale of New York City's model. So we're not setting a precedent. Precedents have already been set across the nation. We just want fair wages for our drivers and safety features. If you're able to see my name, like you're able to see my name on the screen right now, and it says Norberto Casas, the law of reciprocity says as a passenger, I should be able to see at least your first full legal name. I shouldn't have to decide if I'm going to pick up quote unquote Papi Chulo at 11 o'clock at night, or if I'm going to pick up quote unquote, Sugar Tea at 12:30 at night. That puts us drivers in a very awkward position, and you can't even reveal your full name.
Yeah. Well, and
Oh, Kira's frozen. Mr. Freeze used his freeze gun
Yeah,
on Kira. She'll be back in a moment.
Sub-Zero.
Yeah,
Sub-Zero.
you guys can't all use this the Wi-Fi at the same time over there, Kira.
Let me remove Kira's screen until she pops back up with us. She'll be back in a moment.
So you hear me,
You
Jared?
know, I can hear you. Yeah, let me ask you a question until Kira gets back, because this is something I've often been curious about: is driver safety. Interestingly enough, I was at my health club the other night, really late. I like to go swim laps in the middle of the night, and guy came out of the club and he asked me if I'd give him a ride from McCormick to Damon. And I saw him come out of the club, but Norberto, the first thing that went through my mind is, what if this guy's like taking advantage of the moment in the middle of the night to maybe, I don't know, like rob me or assault me? I drove him. I'm just like, whatever. It's like I was very vigilant in driving him. But this question brings me to you is like, the question I want to pose to you is, what questions that you have with some passengers and how you remain vigilant for your own safety, given the concerns you had driving people around in the middle of the night and worried about the passengers that you're picking up. How do you prepare to protect yourself, or do you just do it on faith? I mean,
I pray a lot. I take my daughter to church every Sunday with grandma. I pray a lot, but you know what? Prayer can only get you so far. So what I do is I try to take a square. So I like to work in an area that's like Ashland West, Lakefront East, maybe about Roosevelt South, all the way to Sheridan North. So I'll kind of make some sort of a square, okay? And if you put in a false identity and I can't, really make out your name, I'm not going to pick you up.
Norberto, can I recommend something though for you, just for the hell of it? The friend I'm talking about is a rideshare driver. He's a DoorDash delivery driver. He was robbed by two guys, and I believe he identified the weapon as an AR-15.
Oh my God!
Jesus! I missed this conversation. Holy. Well,
I was asking Norberto about how he could protect himself, against potentially dangerous passengers. And he just shared, prayer and how he decides to route himself. But the reason I asked about protection was, I have a friend who's a DoorDash driver, and he's just like, he looked at these guys incredulous. He's just like, I'm a DoorDash driver. You're going to kill me over like a couple dollars? And they took his money and they left, and he reported it. But beyond prayer and checking your routes, might I recommend, they sell these great things on Amazon. They're called mace guns. I have one in my car. It looks like a pistol. It has a mace cartridge. Maybe just have one under your seat in case the prayer or determining what areas you're going to drive in the middle of the night might not work. Because after I heard my friend Spiro's account of these nut jobs that decided to rob him while he was doing DoorDash with an AR-15, and thankfully, they didn't, I'm not reading his obituary.
Right.
I would hope that, just an extra ounce of caution with, you don't want to have to use something like that, but certainly to have something that's a benign weapon of defense, spray someone in the eye with it to like get out of your car and, get away quick enough. So just an important safety tip. I hope you take in the right spirit. One
of the things that we would like to add to our ordinance is survivor benefits. So since 2017,
wow.
Since 2017, over 55 gig workers have been killed in action, driving their route, by their passengers or by their counterparts. So over 55, have been killed in action. It's a shame, that the family of those drivers or those gig workers that were killed in action, instead of having survivor benefits, have to go set up a GoFundMe account to pay for the funeral cost.
Only in America. Only in America. There was one of the, I recall reading in the news, I think this was like 2 or 3 years ago, some woman in Walmart was wandering around with a knife. She called a rideshare guy and she knifed him and she killed him. And they caught her. But I think that's one of the stories that I read that really put my attention on. Yeah, these gig worker drivers, whether it's DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, whatever, really put themselves in a precarious situation and have to kind of hopefully plan beyond survivor benefits to like get out of that car safely if something tragic were to present itself.
Jerry, here's the thing, Jerry, is that our proposal, we are proposing on a scale to save drivers' lives. All they need to do is put in a paragraph of code in their pod out there in California, okay, out in their pod in California, put in a paragraph of code, and the law of reciprocity says you would have to verify your identity through your face, okay, or your fingerprints, so the driver knows that you are who you say you are, and not have all these fake identities, use fake credit cards or prepaid debit cards to buy rides and make the driver the victim at the end of the day. That's not right.
That's a good ounce of prevention, and it's very smart. And you would think that these big corporate bigwigs who want to avoid paying out big liabilities or, God forbid, survivor benefits would recognize, it'll be cheaper for us to institute what the gig drivers are proposing than they have to deal with the tragedy and the mess afterwards. I don't use mess disrespectfully, but you know what I mean. Just all the complications.
Yeah.
Kathy, we're not doing leprechaun jigs during a serious interview, but I will give you a credit for when we're out of this story. Out of this interview.
Milberto, I have a friend who's a rideshare driver in New York, and he mentioned something about insurance, that insurance is actually kind of a pain in the ass for rideshare drivers to obtain. Could you tell us a little bit about that, maybe?
About the insurance portion of it?
Yeah. Is there, like, what's the deal with insurance, or do you deal with the same things that my friend is dealing with in New York?
Well, here in Chicago, they make you add an additional rider for additional coverage, and it's an additional cost, and it's renewable every 6 months. That additional cost can range from $10 to $30 on the monthly policy. And I have that additional rider on my coverage, just to be on the up and up or whatnot. So in Chicago, it's not as big a deal. It's just more of a cost, but it's another pass-through cost that drivers are having to swallow.
Yeah, I just wanted to get an idea of all of the different kinds of costs that drivers are swallowing that we're not thinking of as consumers, right? Because if you're making, say, $14 per ride and you're getting 2 rides maybe an hour, because you said if you're lucky, you got 3. So let's give it like the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, for, every hour you're making, $28, right? And then what is gas? And then how much is insurance? And then how much are car repairs, oil changes? Are there any other costs that we might be overlooking as consumers when we think about a topic like this, when we're thinking about what it actually takes to make money in this industry as it stands right now?
Sure, you have depreciation of the vehicle.
Okay, yep.
You have the tolls, because a lot of these rides are, airport runs, especially around the holidays like 4th of July. I mean, I must have been to the airport at least 5-10 times in the past 72 hours.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pass-through costs that don't pass through. They just kind of swerve back and hit you as a driver. Yeah.
That's right. I just went to go get an oil change, and I had to get my air filter changed. I had to get some other frickin' filter changed. And then they were telling me my brakes were wearing down. It was, I held off on the brakes for now, but it would have been a $900 cost on my car, and we do not drive our car around nearly as much as someone who drives other people around for a living, and so to think about having to manage those costs as a part of my business sounds very painful. So I did want to get to Jean's question. Are all the people in rideshare unified on this?
I haven't met one rideshare driver who doesn't want to raise.
Yeah.
I haven't met one rideshare driver who says, no. The safety features today are more than adequate to keep drivers safe. I haven't met one rideshare driver who said, no. I'm okay if they deactivate me. I'm okay with having zero recourse to get my job back.
Yeah.
Okay? These are all very common sense things. But when it comes to big wig corporations, these are $billion companies that spend millions of dollars to lobby and lie and confuse the American public, just like they did in California with Proposition 22. Okay, they're doing something exactly the same here in Chicago. So we're having to lobby and lobby and lobby. You know, all of our alder people and aldermen and alderwomen across the city of Chicago, we do have aldermanic support on scale. We will be upping the ante. We will be doing acts of civil disobedience so that the people that are aldermen who are, that can wait, so they can recalibrate and see that if you're on the side of the working class people in the city of Chicago, they will vote for you. And if you are not,
Yes!
it may even lose your seat.
Yeah, and that there are repercussions, and there are what's the word I'm looking for? There are consequences.
Consequences.
Thank you.
Sorry, I stepped on the end of your sentence. I thought you were done, and I was giving you a yes for that.
Yeah.
So in about 2 weeks' time, okay, we're going to be shutting something down. We're either going to shut down North Avenue, or we're going to shut down around City Hall, or we're going to shut down the Uber Hub, or we're going to shut down ORD, the TNP zone. We're going to shut some shit down because these people need to recalibrate and see on a scale that it's a people's movement. And if you don't do the people's will, the people will vote you out.
Yep. Awesome. Yes. So we're doing direct action, direct street action, civil disobedience to answer Jean's question, which I love.
She has a follow-up.
Is there a follow-up from Jean before I launch into what they're saying on the gigalliance.org website?
Well, it's on screen. So he's explained their plan. How can we help?
Here we go. Perfect.
How can riders and customers help?
Yeah, let me
Is there a way we can help?
The way that riders can help is they can join our organization, which is the Chicago Gig Alliance. We are a conduit of the People's Lobby. Okay, the drivers can join the Chicago Gig Alliance. Okay, so they can join the Chicago Gig Alliance, and we're going to be giving regular updates of our next meetings, of our next actions, outreach to the aldermen and their wards. The thing that riders can do is to be conscientious of these different moving parts, to be conscientious of the fact of, you know what, if they're splitting 50-50 and all that the Uber is really doing is, you know, giving us their technology, that ain't right. If they're putting drivers in danger when the technology exists on a scale to keep them safe, but they refuse to do it, that ain't right. So the thing that riders can do is be more conscientious of the different moving parts, and to know at the end of the day, the people that are going to win are going to be the riders, because they're going to be just as safe as the drivers, and there's going to be more transparency. You're going to be able to see what the company makes, what the driver makes, and what your overall gross fare is.
That's awesome. I love how in action this organization is, and I love how organized this organization is. So just to read directly from Chicago gigalliance.org, which is where you can find all of the ways that you can help, all of the links to help out. If you do want to help out with this, go here and just a little snippet of what this ordinance will create. Safety standards for drivers, a transparent investigation and appeals process to prevent drivers from unfair deactivations, guarantee a living wage for drivers without raising fares for passengers by capping the amount of money these corporations can skim from each ride. There is a link that if you are a driver, you can send a letter to your alderman, and there's another link that if you're a rider, you can send a letter on behalf of allies instead. So it's all there at that website if you are interested and you want to help. ChicagoGigAlliance.org.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that information, Kira.
My pleasure. I just know that we are in a situation right now where we need all hands on deck. And I actually found out about the Chicago Gig Alliance through the People's Lobby, because that is the organization I am personally a part of. So I'm grateful to be part of an organization that does so many amazing things across the city of Chicago. And yeah, it was at a barbecue I found out about this, and I was elated because I just think, like, I don't know. I think I'm always on the side of labor. It's always been one of my passions, and I am so enlivened by how workers are starting to rise up and starting to really take back, or just take what's theirs, because it's the workers that are making the money for these giant corporations, and it's the workers who are getting fucked while they're making everybody else rich, right? And we're done. We're done.
This is such
We're
a crock of shit.
And one more point I wanted to add is, like I said earlier, I come from a background of real estate, and and laws of real estate have been around for about 100 years. Rideshare is an industry in its infancy. It's only been around about a dozen years. So whenever you have an industry in its infancy, the corporations will take advantage of the lack of standards, the lack of regulation, and they will do everything to their benefit until good people come together and knock some sense into some politicians so they're able to pass common sense legislation on a scale to protect the workers, on a scale to give living wages to the drivers.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
we say about the good people in Chicago, Chicago isn't beyond saving. Give me more time. There are good people here. And you're one of them.
Oh my goodness.
I told you that we have a good time on the show.
Oh, you guys are great. I'm going to be watching this more often now.
Yes, and definitely share this with everybody. Because we need everybody to know about what Chicago Gig Alliance is up to, and we need everybody to have access to more independent news media that are highlighting these efforts across our city. And like I said at the top of the show, hopefully there are other news outlets in other metropolitan areas that are going to pick up the baton and get going on this, because these are the kinds of grassroots movements we need to actually create any kind of change that we want to see in this country, because we're not getting it from the top down, y'all. Just a little news flash. You are watching a news show, so it's perfect timing for that. It's not coming from the top down.
You're absolutely right, Kira. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful. For you, Norberto, for coming on. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience, where people can find you maybe, or anything else that you might want to share that's going on that you want to make sure people know about?
Sure. If they want to reach out to us directly, they can always send us a message via Facebook Messenger to the Chicago Gig Alliance, so we can let them know how they can get more involved intrinsically, let them know about actions coming up. As an example, we're having an action on July 19th of this month, and we're just going to keep upping the ante until the wise men at City Hall get sick of us and say, you know what, let's really hear them out.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And all it takes is a critical mass, and it's shocking how small of a critical mass it actually takes to make change. But once there are bodies that get out there and people making phone calls and people taking the steps, we actually can move local politicians in the direction we want them to move in. It doesn't actually take that much, you guys. It just takes taking action.
You just need to hammer the phones.
Yep, that's right.
Hammer the phones. I'll share one story with you real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was one alder person that I met at a fundraiser, and I won't mention that person's name, but I would call her and I would call her and I would call her and I would email her, and she wouldn't respond to me under any circumstances. So I tried the chief of staff, and the same thing. we know we met you in person. We know we spoke with you for 15 minutes, but now we're gonna ghost you. So I took the high road. So after 10 phone calls and 10 emails, guess what I did, Kira?
Did you go into the office?
Better.
Oh, really?
I sent them flowers.
Oh,
Oh, you're a better man than I could be with that.
I sent them flowers for Holy Week.
that's
And
amazing.
And guess what, Kira? Within 10 minutes of that order hitting that door for that all-dramatic person's office, I got a phone call.
So we have to bribe our elected officials. It used to be
My
with
mom-
cash, but now flowers work.
My mom used to say you get more bees with honey than
Yeah.
you do vinegar.
You know the thing is, look, yeah, I've used honey for so many years that I don't use it anymore because unfortunately I haven't come across enough people that recognize honey rather than just
but I
completely
think
being
it's less
burned
about.
out by.
I think
Aren't
it's less about
flowers pretty
honey.
expensive these days?
I think it's less about honey and more about like a surprise. Like
They were very
Wow.
surprised.
like that's and flowers are expensive.
And I told them, just wanted to wish you a happy, Holy Week and a happy Easter. And 10 minutes later, boom, they were on the
I
phone.
hope
with
you
me.
can see our side of things. Thank you.
It's
I
also
love
it's
it.
also better than sending them like a dead fish wrapped in newspaper.
That's the Rahm Emanuel playbook.
or a horse head.
Yeah, even better. Oh no, I meant to say even worse. No, I said even better.
I'd say even better.
Or like in Succession when they send a Trojan horse.
Yeah. Let's do it.
They sent a Trojan horse on the show Succession. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I do know what a Trojan horse is.
Yes, they sent a full Trojan horse. It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Norberto. Will you be joining us for the remainder of our stories, or do you got to get going? I know it's close to your work shift time.
Yeah, no, I'm going to
Around
get
it.
going, but I want to thank you guys for giving us a voice.
He's had enough of us.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I'm done.
My silly drop-ins. No, I know. I'm just teasing you. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and thanks for indulging us with our playful attitude over here. We take what you're doing very seriously, and I think it's been a real privilege to have you on to share what you're doing to represent all gig workers. Look, this is specific to your industry with drivers, but this is the kind of attitude this is the kind of organizing that's got to spread across all
That's right.
gig working specialties.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely agree. And I want to thank you guys for giving us a voice, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. And that's what we're going to keep doing. So, you know where to find me, Alberto. So anytime you want to share anything, just reach out to me. We are now connected. I'll probably stalk you on Facebook. So that's going to happen.
Absolutely. You can add it. There's one more topic I'd like to talk to you on a future podcast.
Yes.
And
Okay,
that's
awesome.
that's about environmental pollution on the I-55 corridor.
Okay, I'm in. Okay, shoot me an email about it. Let's get this arranged.
Absolutely.
I'm totally down.
Absolutely.
And if
Absolutely, I definitely
possible,
will.
maybe we can air that podcast on World Perspectives Radio Chicago.
There we go. Yes. So our organization does radio, we do CAN TV, and we do a couple of online shows. So
I would love to have you on the
run
CAN
deep.
TV episode also to get your message out citywide on the cable network. That would be fun to do too. What do you think?
Excellent. Because one of the writers that I had
He
yesterday,
agrees.
one of the writers that I had yesterday, he was an engineer, and we were talking about the Hillcoat implosion where they blew up the old electrical factory by Little Village.
Oh yeah.
Because he told me, he's like, where do you live? I said, oh, I live in Brighton Park, but I used to live in Pilsen. So whenever people tell me, oh, I know Pilsen, I have two questions for them. Number one, how do you like the food? And number two, how do you like the pollution?
Yeah.
So we started talking, and he said, man, what they did over there was negligent.
Yeah.
And it was criminal because they were supposed to have water cannons
We talked
around a 150-foot radius So when they blew it up, the water cannons would, encapsulate all of the debris and the pollution and the air clouds into that section. But they were such cheapskates that they did not encapsulate it with the water cannons surrounding it. And that's why there was so much pollution that went into the residential areas of the village.
The city didn't pay any fucking attention to that. Kit's been on. We were talking about environmental or racism and pollution in that neighborhood. I think it was last year, and we always do like update stories. But along with, where's the best restaurant in Pilsen, I think one of the other questions that people are asking each other is, what's the best brand air filtration mask that you're wearing?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's a very good one. So that'll
add that to the social interaction there, or the friendly conversation.
So that would be maybe a subject that I would like to touch on a future podcast with you guys, if you guys are.
Yeah, we'd love that. Yeah, we would love that. I would love to learn more about that. And we'll talk about like I said, this organization runs deep, right? So we got cable, we got radio, we got the internet. We're taking over the city, baby. So all right, definitely
share our channel with your. You know what? You could do us a big favor. After this show is archived, after the live broadcast, for your friends who aren't watching, please share this show and our channel Chicago Corner with all your friends, and that could help us build up our audience, and also bring more people into the fold about things that they want to talk about beyond just what you came on to talk about here tonight.
Yeah, I shared it right before I came on. I shared it with a couple of friends right before I came on, but I'll make sure to share it, going forward as well.
Yeah, and the replay will be on YouTube.
Right after the show.
So you'll be able to share far and wide at that point too.
I look forward to it. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. It was such a fun conversation. It was great to learn about what we're doing in the city of Chicago to support gig drivers and gig workers. I really appreciate all of the time and the work that you're putting in to make your life work, but then by extension, making so many other people's lives work. You go to work every day, and the simple ask is that, hey, I can take care of myself and my family with the work that I put in. It's not that much to ask. So I'm glad that we have people like you out there that are ready to be on the front lines to fight for that.
Thank you for giving us a voice.
You got it. Thank you so much, Norberto. You have a great night. Make lots of money.
Thank you, guys.
Peace out.
Great to meet you guys. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
So that's a story we're going to have to keep an eye on too.
That is definitely.
And since Roderick Sawyer is involved with this thing, we're going to have to see if he does anything beyond lip service for it. So,
guys,
stay tuned.
We owe Kathy a. Are we pronouncing it Chon or
Con?
Con dance. Here you go, Kathy. Come on, everybody, dance like monkeys. No, we appreciate the super chats, Kathy.
The con. It'd be the con, right?
The con. Well, she is a con, so yeah, we'll have to call her the con.
I like the double entendre.
Yes, absolutely.
Of the con. Yes, absolutely. 100%. That was great. That was a great interview. I'm so grateful that he came on and said yes to me. You don't know me. Come on my show.
Well, Kira, come on. You're radiant. You know how to drop people.
Well,
Plus, you're a great interviewer. You're a great journalist and interviewer. So we're lucky.
Thank you.
You're headlining on Tuesdays.
That's right. Headlining. Don't you forget it. All right. So
I don't.
You're like, trust me. I remember on Tuesdays that I am not researching and coming up with all the stories that we're doing on the show. Man, and just to remind everybody, feel free to give us some super chats. I saw that Kathy gave us $1 super chat earlier. We put the con up for her for that. Don't be shy about paying us. We're not shy about asking for it. Thanks, Miguel. I will ask for money. I am not beneath it. Let's just be clear about that, okay?
After a year of building this channel, I think we've earned it.
That's right. All right.
We may have to come up with like a gator dance or something. You know how they do the crab dance on other channels?
I love it. Good job, Kira.
You need dances? Do you need choreographed dances? I'm your girl.
No,
Okay.
it'd probably be just
She's
like
the girl.
little.
I don't have the
Like-
legs for it, so I'll leave it to Kira.
I was thinking more along the lines of little animated alligators.
Okay.
Oh,
with a
okay,
little
okay.
bit of
Oh, I thought
music,
you meant
know.
dance moves that we do.
I'll have to see if I can
I
find
mean,
some
yeah,
animation
whatever you
like
want
that.
to do, but you know, I
It's
figured
like
we'd
it's
just
your
keep
show.
it simple.
All right, cool. So next up, we're going to be talking about electronic monitoring. Now, this is a really interesting piece to me because I was actually part of the push to get the Pretrial Fairness Act in place. And this is actually a perfect topic to talk about in relation to the Pretrial Fairness Act, because there are going to be a lot more people on electronic monitoring as a result of the Pretrial Fairness Act, insofar as I understand. And I think I understand it pretty well. So today there are 3,000 people on electronic monitoring in Cook County. According to the Cook County Sheriff's Office, the program is a community-based alternative incarceration concept that allows those in pretrial detention to remain at home rather than in jail. To be clear, I think that doing that is a much better solution than holding people on bail before their trial if they're not deemed dangerous. But there are some pretty damning reports right now coming out about the false positives these devices put out and the trauma that goes along with being falsely ID'd for leaving your house or breaking whatever rules inside of your detainment. So when a person's EM or electronic monitoring device sends an alert, employees at an out-of-state call center, this is what's set up right now in Cook County, okay? So there's an out-of-state call center that reviews the alert to determine if it's genuine. According to Transparency Chicago, which is a nonprofit whose research includes the Cook County EM program, Electronic Monitoring Program, slides were presented to Cook County by the University of Chicago Research Lab that stated that more than, listen to this, guys, 80% of the alerts sent by Cook County Sheriff's Office EM vendor track group are false positive alerts.
How can that be? How are they shooting out the false positives?
So there are all kinds of reasons that false positives go out, but mostly from what I understand from the article, it has to do with just connection with wherever, like I know it's
tech
like literally
breakdown.
like tech breakdown.
Oh my god!
Right?
Yeah, it's like you know how sometimes Kira's camera freezes on the show.
I was going to use that as an example. Yes,
it's
exactly.
kind of like that, but with electronic monitoring, and that they'll probably send a bunch of cops around to arrest you for
100%.
breaking their equipment.
That's it. Yep, that's it. You guys think about how often your internet goes down, how often you get disconnected, or someone's face.
I was having this problem like weeks ago with the buffering problem. I was afraid I'd have it tonight because I'm finally taking my laptop in tomorrow. But yeah, it's tech issues plaguing us everywhere. Gremlins.
80%. Yep, and it makes
sense. And you know what, though? But in that system,
right?
though, Kira, that's a system that shouldn't have that higher rate of glitches.
Oh, it's insane, dude. And let me get into the story before I get ahead of myself, because that's what I do. I start to tell the rest of the story before I read my script.
Oh, before you start though, Kira, I think we need to start a betting pool on what the problem with Jerry's laptop was. And my guess is it could be one faulty fan inside is not working properly, and so it's making it overheat, and then his computer is going wacko.
It could be. I mean, I always touch my laptop, even though and it's consensual, to see if it's hot on the bottom, and it's consensual, and I'm not sensing any heat there. So, but you might be. It could be even just slightly overheated and sending the computer all kinds of alerts. That's why it's transferring all that operating system power. But let's let Kira get back to the story. Sorry, I don't want. That's his whole. But yeah, we can bet on it later. I think we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but if you consider how much, just to make a correlation, a parallel between why and how this is all happening.
Yep.
So, and to understand how EM is impacting people placed in the program, we collected experiences of those who are personally plagued. We didn't, the tribe.com or .org, I can't, TRIIBE. I forget if they're a .com or a .org. It's all in the in the description box below, just so everybody knows. They collected the experience of those who are personally plagued by the problems from the Cook County Sheriff's Office's electronic monitoring program, and attorneys who shared their clients' experiences. Their experiences give insight into where the program's faults are, raising questions of why these life-destroying problems persist for so long and why it takes so long for officials to notice. The really upsetting accounts are of what happens to people when the alarm goes off falsely. Is that basically police arrive on the scene and handcuff you first and ask questions later.
Well, it's better than when they arrive on the scene of a suspicious activity and shoot you first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm,
then you're like on the ground, like waiting for paramedics, and instead of calling the paramedics, they handcuff you. Right. I guess it's a slightly better like resolution, although it's not ideal. And as Ilhanner says in the chat, it's the 1984 protocol.
Exactly. So one account of many that were in this article, and I'm sure many, many more that weren't in the article, was Charles Bobach. He shared his experiences with constant false EM violations and sheriff visitation. So there are a lot of buildings in Chicago, Jerry, right? And Ed, I'm sure that you've experienced this where your cell phone service just doesn't fucking work, right? Like I actually owned a business where my cell phone service didn't work. I had to change my carrier because my cell phone service wouldn't work inside.
I did that in the old. I used to live over in Lincoln Square, and I forgot it may have been AT&T. Middle of Lincoln Square, I had like no coverage. I'm like, what the F? I'm like in the middle of Chicago. And my signal strength in the apartment, and it wasn't like cement walls and stuff. It was just they didn't have but that's what forced me to change my carrier. Speaking to your point,
exactly.
Yeah, and then the other thing is it could be network congestion too. If you're in an area that normally gets people who end up on electronic monitoring, you have a whole bunch of them in one location. Maybe they're causing some network traffic that's disrupting the EM. Band network or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And so that's very much what was happening with Charles Bobach. And 1 week in April 2022, he was visited and cuffed 4 times. He had tweeted, "LOL, cuffed up behind my back again by CCSO," which is Cook County Sheriff Office. "This time they had me walk down the street with everyone watching so they could get a better signal for my ankle monitor." That's twice in 4 days.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Don't have any don't like do your job with some integrity and at least like err on the side of caution. Be an asshole. Be a jagoff.
Exactly. And I think that
you're against law enforcement. No, man. I mean, like, can't they carry themselves a little bit more professionally rather than I'm just gonna come in and do what the fuck I want because you're on
Yeah, no, I do think there's something to be said about protocol, Jerry. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but like I agree with you.
You're right. Yeah.
I think that the protocol could be totally different on these sorts of things, understanding that 80% of the signals that they get are false, of the alarms that go off are false alarms that need manual intervention by a human.
Yeah, that seems, like if that is happening and they're able to record that it's 80% false positive, why are they not fixing that?
Well, and
why
that's
are they
largely
allowing
one of the
that
big
to continue?
questions. Mm-hmm.
For the same reason, Ed, on a separate note, that they don't put security cameras out in front of that mailbox I reported on last Friday night, where checks have been washed for over 2 years now. They don't want to. They don't care. It's a cover. Mm-hmm. It's not a priority. Okay. Yep. These things are not a priority to those who are responsible for making things a priority and making sure that things operate fairly and equitably.
Well, Jerry, we have to work on our priorities for a lot of things. My main priority is, this. And I'm not going to stop until there's a second one there. So, I don't care about your stupid mailbox, okay? Jerry. I need my double bean.
Bean on bean.
Blowjob! Blowjob! Blowjob!
Oh, Ed.
Lightfoot.
You know what I think about Lori Lightfoot's plans for that casino and where the money's going to go and who it's going to benefit? You know what I think about it, Ed?
Hinky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky.
Oh, strange.
Weird. Why don't you say strange or weird? Hinky, that has no meaning.
We say hinky.
I don't want you guys using words around me that got no meaning.
I know
There
Ed,
you go.
Ed had requested that drop in, so.
That's a strange
it.
or weird clip that you just played, Jerry.
Why is it strange or weird? You wanted it.
I don't know. It's just
Is it-
strange or weird.
Are you claiming that the clip that I put in at your request is?
Hinky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky.
Oh, strange.
Weird. Why don't you say strange or weird? Hinky, that has no meaning.
We say hinky.
It does now. It does now. Oh my goodness. Okay. So there are accounts in this article and probably beyond of people getting in trouble at work for constant distractions, also being cuffed again and again in front of their children, you guys. All of this can be really, really traumatizing. But I wanted to highlight something Tracy Harkins said, who's an attorney whose clients include many on EM. And she shared her experiences with prosecutors who she characterized as aggressive and judges who she says have impossible standards and deep misunderstandings of GPS accuracy. So this is where a lot of the issues root from, right? So we're going to have technology issues, right? But in her experience, Harkins says a vast majority of judges read the reports at face value with no verification, testimony, or additional information. She said that attorneys who request hearings to challenge progress reports were, quote, frequently scoffed at or held to an impossible standard, where judges agree to a hearing on the spot and without any preparation whatsoever. She said that last October, she had seen 30 to 40 people ordered back into custody based on these progress reports. When asked what can be done to improve the EM program, Harkins said that the sheriff's office needs to properly and fully investigate alleged violations before writing reports or taking action. Yes, you get an alarm, right? You get an alarm, and then you have a human check it and make sure it's valid.
And by human, we don't mean Officer Cartman.
Right. Respect my authority.
You mean a second set of eyes, or a first set of eyes?
A first set
in
of
this
eyes.
case, yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It requires training, which
Think of all the jobs. Think of the job creation.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a good thing.
And this is all like, and we're really, and this kind of goes to Kathy's point, right? Because Kathy asked, like, why we hear the bad stories, why don't we hear the successes? And I think that, and Kathy, I'm sorry if I'm like speaking for you here, but I was part of the organization, one of the many organizations that pushed to get the Pretrial Fairness Act, which is going to heavily rely on electronic monitoring, because what we're saying in the Pretrial Fairness Act is, hey, we're not going to charge people bail if they're waiting for trial and they're not dangerous to themselves or society, right? And I think that it's really important to make sure that people's lives can still go on, while they're awaiting trial. Unimpeded, exactly. But we're finding that these electronic monitoring devices are now impeding people's lives in a very real way when we're not taking the proper precautions inside of these alarms that are going off.
But the real danger is too, Kira, for those that are on home monitoring that are violent offenders awaiting trials. They need to fix this system so that they're actually focused on the ones that are the threat, not the ones that aren't. I'm sure that their reasoning and their mentality as well, that's collateral damage, which, no, when it comes to law and order and fair and equitable justice, no, there should not be this kind of collateral damage.
Agreed.
With these kind of tech problems.
You ruin lives, you traumatize people, and we all know that trauma is the number one cause for people ending up in, and there's a number one correlation, I'll say, for people ending up in incarceration.
Yeah.
Yep. Incarceration.
Incarcerated.
Incarcerated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is definitely something that needs to have some extra attention put into it, because I think that it's a good program. It's just, it does need humanity brought to it.
A quick question for Kat, just because she's very, very busy in the chat, as we always like to see her. Kathy, just a quick, I hope you got over your COVID. I know last time Kathy was on the show, I think that she'd gone through a second bout of COVID. So how you doing, Kathy? Share in the chat. Hope you're doing better.
Yes. Okay, cool. Anything from you, Ed, in regard to this particular story?
It just made me think about home monitoring, house arrest type situations, and it brought to mind Stephen Donziger, who had it's not a local story, but he had been a lawyer who had sued an oil company in Venezuela and won, and they punished him by making up some faulty charges that his information was false, and having basically a corporate judge.
Yeah, corporate selected judge. Could you? I still can't believe that, Ed. In modern day, it's like
so.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that they got away with that. And it was just, It's like, we know you're going to see how corrupt we are. We just don't give a shit. And we're going to business as usual.
It's just another angle on home monitoring in which, in which certain people in places of so-called authority or corporate influence would take advantage of such a system to oppress somebody. And so that's another thing you have to stay on top of when you revise or try to correct these types of systems.
Mm-hmm. And Kathy got back to us.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness it wasn't COVID, because I was thinking 2 bouts of COVID and you're vaccinated isn't a good sign. But I'm glad it wasn't COVID then.
Yeah, no diggity. But man, take care of yourselves, you guys. Today was a fucking scorcher.
It sure was.
Yeah, the weather's crazy.
It's crazy, y'all. It's cray. Okay. So the corporate judge can twist the rights of a lawyer to protect his sources. Yeah, you guys. Yeah, and that's why making sure you look at these judges. If you're in an election situation, the judges are usually one of the more important people to look at, because these are the people who are either scoffing or not, right, at people's requests to look a little more deeply into something that might impact somebody's life in a real way.
Yeah,
and their children, and then their children's children.
And what's the Jenny Holzerism? Abuse of power is no surprise. I believe that's the one. Mm-hmm. If anybody's familiar with the artist Jenny Holzer, she makes these what they call them truisms, where they're not necessarily entirely true, but there's often a lot of truth to some of these one-liners. Mm-hmm. And that was one of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Kira.
All right. So next,
Lainey Peterson just shared. A nice opportunity to use our breaking news. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but really quickly. So we're talking about gun violence earlier in the show.
Yep.
Chicago shooting, 15-year-old boy killed in Warren Park, police say. Shot and killed in the city's northwest side Tuesday afternoon, the Chicago Police Department said. The shooting happened about 1:51 p.m. in Warren Park, actually not too far from here. That just came through an instant message, and I just thought I'd really quickly share it. Very sad. Condolences to the family. But once again, it's just more...
Another day in America.
Another day in Chicago, America. Yeah, America specifically.
So another day in America. Yep, absolutely.
Poor 15-year-old kid.
That sucks.
Sitting in the park in the 6600 block of Northwestern Avenue when an unknown offender approached him, produced a gun, and fired shots. The victim sustained a gunshot wound to the right shoulder and was transported to St. Francis Hospital, where he was pronounced dead.
Jesus.
My mother often shares with me when she hears I go down into the city how worried she is about me. And I kind of just come on, Mom. The chances of anything happening to me are slim, or any of us. I mean, it's being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sadly, it seems like those odds are changing. But I just found it ironic that she's always worried about warning me about going into the city. It's like, well, now it happens up in the suburbs too. Yeah. So don't worry.
And in downtown, and in the north side, and everywhere in America.
Yeah.
Everywhere in America, USA.
Right. Don't try to share, what's the word? She wants me to be safe. I understand it comes from a good place, but it's like, I worry about myself. You all worry about where you're going and stuff, because all bets are off for everyone everywhere now.
Yep. Yeah, dude, man. I honestly, like, I was canvassing on the day of Pride, and I was going door to door and talking to people. And there weren't a lot of people answering the door. And there was one woman I talked to, and I was like, gosh, there aren't a lot of people answering the door today. That's a real bummer. And she was like, well, yeah, it's Pride. It's the day of the Pride Parade. And I was like, I wouldn't go to a Pride Parade. Like, I wouldn't go to a parade right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't go to a festival right now.
I don't want to live that way, Kira. It's like, look,
I didn't go to festivals before.
Okay.
I'm
No.
definitely not going now.
That's a personal choice for you.
Definitely not going now.
I don't have a wife. I don't have a kid. I'm, a little bit like, I'm not going to have anybody tell me what to do. Certainly when I go out, I'm careful. But I also personally don't want to watch. I'm going to say this, and then the next show you do, it's going to be Jerry got killed at a crowded event.
Don't say that.
No, I just don't want to. I don't want to live life hiding under my bed. And
Right.
Of course, I'm careful, and I want to be vigilant, as I always tell everybody at the end of the show. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm willing to take the risk, so long as I mentioned during that story with our guest, I gave a stranger a ride from my health club in the middle of the night. And my thoughts were, is this guy going to jump me? Is he going to rob me? But I'm like, so long as I was conscious of the fact he could, I was willing to give him the ride, and also like be tense and reacting if I had to in my car, because I just don't want to live like having to suspect everybody. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's a fine line.
Yeah.
I don't want everything that's happening to dictate how I should act or not act, because, in that situation where that guy needed a ride because his banking wasn't working and he couldn't get his ride share. I'm like, we were at Tui and McCormick, and he lived over at Damon Pass Western Avenue. I'm like, I'm going to give him a ride.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt. But if he's going to cross me, my arm is going to go like this in the passenger seat to protect myself, right?
Yeah. I mean, I generally don't fear a person. I just, for me, it's just like, okay, do I really need to go to a festival? No,
Yeah, I understand.
I haven't gone to any really before. And now that the cases of mass shooting at these places are just like kind of normal.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna go.
I don't blame you. I understand.
I'll go visit my friend over at the lake house like I did for 4th of July, and there were 6 of us there. And there were at one point 10 of us there, right? But I knew them all. Nobody had an AR-15. We did have a Nerf gun, and we did have some water guns.
That's safe. That's safe, Kira.
Well, it's funny you say that, Kira, because it's like I'm not the biggest social butterfly myself. It's like when I go out to the Hardlands media parties, that's probably all the social activity I get like over 2 or 3 months. But that said, it's like if I have to go somewhere, I'm not going to be like, I can't go there out of fear. It's like if I had, like, for example, once again, citing what my mom says, this docuseries that I'm helping edit, the filmmaker lives on the South Side. I'm not afraid to go down to the South Side. I certainly have a heightened awareness, but I also know that it can happen on the South Side. Now it can happen on the North Side. Now it can happen in the suburbs. Am I going to suddenly just like, work? No, I know. No, I didn't take your point that way. I'm just saying, like, the fear factor of going anywhere, knowing it can happen anywhere. I don't want to live my life being, well, I can't go anywhere. I'm not, not being the social person who goes out all the time anyway, but like when I do have to go out, I don't feel like I want to have it dictated to me when and where I can, because of the points you're making that we just have to be aware of, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nimesh, thank you. Our CPD friend, Nimesh. America loves its guns more than its children. Yep. Thank you for joining in, Nimesh. It's always good to hear from you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and I think that it's a similar situation like COVID, isn't it, Jerry, where we just have to respect each other's choices.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, it's just like, well, if I don't feel comfortable going out because of a COVID situation, or like for me, I'm just like, whoa, COVID, right? I'm being completely irresponsible. But like in the world of
I was super careful myself. I'm just like, I took all of it seriously because I wanted to err on the side of caution, because I knew something I could potentially have a sense of control over breathing something to get into my lungs if I was careful, as opposed to, I don't have any control over like walking down the street. If some crazy guy decides they're going to target me, that means I got to literally like live like a recluse. And that's just something I don't know. I guess for me,
the truth is that you really don't have control in either situation.
Nope.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you're going to seal yourself into a hermetically sealed bubble.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, at a certain point, you just have to get on with it. And for me, I don't know. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've been even close to a shooting that I'm aware of. I mean, at nighttime, you hear things and you're like, are those fireworks or are those gunshots?
Yeah. I question how many times.
I mean, 3 weeks ago, it was probably gunshots. A couple nights ago, most likely fireworks. But
I feel like I may have derailed Kira. I know it's getting late. I don't want to. I mean, I can talk forever, but I know Kira gets up early. So
I start to glaze over after 9:30 is what I was
just
telling
saw the
Jerry.
time. So let me let Ed and I shut up and let us have you guide the ship to its destination.
But before we do that, I just need to respond to Ilhanar, who says, Ed, I remember old Nerf guns and they were not safe. You'll shoot your eye out. And I will say, yeah, like I said, wear protective eyewear. Because some of those darts have the little suction cups on them, and they could hurt maybe a little. They're not going to kill you, but they will hurt.
Yeah,
if they hit you right in the eyeball.
Yeah, and actually, like for those of you who don't join us live, you're really missing out. There's a really great There are always great conversations going on in the chat right now. We're talking about speedy trials and how that's the law, and like how people are being held without trial right now, and how that is just fundamentally wrong altogether. Where are the charges? It's so much good conversation always in our chat, you guys. So for those of you who aren't joining us live, just know that you're missing out. You're missing out on great conversation. Oh my gosh, how funny. I was going to do the last story about Willie Wilson. All right. Cause he's doing big giveaways again here. So millionaire mayor candidate Willie Wilson is hosting more high price giveaways. He gave out $80,000 in groceries at 4 Chicago Cermak Fresh Markets on Wednesday of last week, and plans to give nearly $2 million in gas on July 9th. The mayor, hopeful, has given away $3.2 million in gas and food since March. The locations for Wilson's planned gas giveaway can be found on his Facebook page. Drivers will be able to get a full tank of gas, he said when he announced the plan. Spiking gas prices have made it hard for people to get to work and bring kids to daycare, the mayoral hopeful said. He says, quote, people are suffering and a lot of people don't have food to eat, he told the Tribune. He encouraged restaurants that throw away cooked food to find ways to donate it.
That's a good idea.
It is a great idea.
I'm surprised more businesses aren't compelled to do that.
Yeah,
I think Ed, something to add to the manifesto.
Wait, what are we adding to the manifesto?
Restaurants should figure out how to share food that's not eaten or used at the end of the night to.
There's a lot that gets tossed out.
Helping people who are hungry.
I think there was supposed to have something in place for that, and I can't remember if they discontinued it or restaurants decided they're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know that there are a lot of restaurants that voluntary. As a matter of fact, when I was volunteering for the night ministry many, many years ago, we would make stops with the SUV, pick up food from, I believe it was Starbucks restaurants, Panera Breads, pre-made sandwiches that weren't used that were in their counter, and we would distribute it to people who needed food in the neighborhoods that the bus was routed for.
Yeah. I think there are so many things that we waste and don't do now that could just be an easy solution to a lot of things that seem really hard. So this giveaway will provide relief for some shoppers and motorists across Chicago, but critics have alleged that Wilson's handouts to potential voters raise ethical questions. You think? I mean, just looking at Section 29-1 about vote buying in the Illinois Constitution.
I'm glad people are taking advantage of this, but clearly we know what they're doing. Take advantage of it and vote for who you want. Not Willie, not Lori. Just take what you can, run. Go ahead, Kira.
No diggity dog, right? So let's just take a look at this clause about vote buying. Quote, any person who knowingly gives, lends, or promises to give or lend any money or valuable consideration to any other person to influence such other person to vote or to register to vote or to influence such other person to vote for or against any candidate or public question to be voted upon at any election shall be guilty of a Class 4 felony. So is this buying votes?
You're not to approve of your methods.
Yeah? Well, you're not from Chicago.
I'd say yes. Magic 8 balls,
I guess.
Highly likely.
Yeah, but the honest truth is that more people should be doing what Willie's doing.
Agreed. Actually, more millionaires should definitely be doing. But if you're running for an office, this starts to get into very murky territory.
Well,
I read something as far as our politicians helping give relief to everybody. I didn't dive deep into it, but I read an anecdote on social media that I didn't follow up on, that this gas tax break that they're giving us was actually, it wasn't that they were like getting rid of the gas tax. They just didn't increase the gas tax as they were going to. That's the favor that they were giving us. Is that, anybody know about that?
Thank you. No, I have no idea. I do know that
I need to look into that because it's like
the gas is. They said that they were going to hold off on increasing it.
So that,
and I'm like, so it's just going to stay where it is. I'm like,
that's what
gas tax.
Yeah. So they acted like they're all benevolent and helping us, and it's like, no, they just put off something they're going to throw in anyway later. Fuckers.
And the grocery tax needs to go away forever, JB.
We were screaming about that last show.
That's actually a great idea. That's a great idea.
People must eat. Period.
So here it is. I added it to the Chicago mayoral pledge of the city. Restaurants should be encouraged to make surplus food available for distribution or donation for food assistance.
Now, Kathy shares in the chat there are insurance liability issues. Fine, fix it. Provide insurance then. There's the solution to our, you know what? People are hungry, they're homeless. Kathy, thank you. I mean, I'm glad that but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a solution to get past that, so that this food isn't rotting in dumpsters when good food doesn't end up in dumpsters rotting when it could be doing some good.
But what they have is, the Chicago Restaurant Association and the Illinois Restaurant Association have these things called the Serve Safe certifications, right? Where if you're a food server or food service manager, you have to get certified for food safety, right? So why couldn't they also have a division, and it could create some jobs, to have people go to every restaurant and be their Serve Safe restaurant surplus food operator.
I love it.
Who can help them make sure that the food that is getting prepared for donation is safe to eat and distribute.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I love this. Yes. Is it? If it's not, why isn't it?
Tax champagne and caviar. Yeah, exactly. I think that there are a lot of great ideas. I mean, I have so many taxation ideas of where we could raise taxes, you guys. We should do
the LaSalle transaction tax is the first one that's always abandoned by our leaders, our representatives, because you just can't have those LaSalle Street, hedge fund managers and
we
brokers.
Wouldn't want them paying money on the money.
Couple pennies a transaction, 2 cents a transaction is what I remember in 2015 during the mayoral races that candidates were. One candidate was proposing,
and it would have collected billions.
It would have wiped out all the debt we're talking about. It would have helped with the pensions, but they just don't feel that they're obligated. The rich LaSalle Street business people, they're not obligated to part. It's for the peasants, man. Go raise the property taxes. Go raise the food taxes. Go put in the sugar tax, which is why Sugar Queen Preckwinkle lost. But
Yep. Well, meanwhile, there's no incentive to fill an empty apartment or fill an empty lot.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of ways that we can be using taxes as an incentive that we're not using it, because it would impact people that have the most power, and we know exactly why.
We are not being represented. Ilhanor says taxation without representation, that is America. This is what the country was. This is what the bloody revolution was because of. We had taxation without representation. Our forefathers, our founding fathers, decided to rise up against Great Britain, against England, in a bloody revolution because they wanted representation. Now, we had the representation, and suddenly it feels like the corporations are the ones with all the representation, not us. It's the corporate states of America. The corporate states of America.
All right. And Kathy says things might change with Griffin gone. Well, we'll see. I mean, he was definitely one of the biggest contributors to everything that we fought against. So
yeah, we can hit Griffin with a tax on his way out the door. We could call it the fleeing corporate coward criminal tax.
I'd like to hit him with a baseball bat on the way out the door, but am I being unkind?
It's a Nerf bat, though, right?
Exactly. I don't want to have that. Yeah,
that's right.
This show is not sponsored by Nerf, by the way.
No, it's not.
You think it was?
But if Nerf wanted to sponsor this show,
they'd be making a killing. Let's be honest. If you want to sponsor us, Nerf, you know how to find us.
But in the meantime, super chats are open.
Super chats are open.
Of course, then we'll be corrupted by the Nerf industrial complex, though. That could be a conflict of Nerf tryst.
So yeah, just to wrap up the Willie Wilson conversation, right, and buying votes and all of that, he declined to answer when asked by the Tribune if the gas and grocery giveaways reflect how he would govern as mayor, and he said that he doesn't want to mix his campaign and his charity work. So
take advantage of what he's doing and vote for who you want. Look, any candidate that runs on, let me do my Willie Wilson
campaign.
I'm a businessman and I run city. I run many businesses. Government is not a business. It's not a for-profit operation. I respect what Willie Wilson has accomplished in his professional life. I think it's great that he has all of these charitable efforts to, blackmail people into voting for him. But that said, I'm on the fence.
Blackmail, bribe.
Bribe. That's the word. Thank you. To bribe people for the vote. That's the word I was. Thank you, Ed. My old
allegedly
was acting up again. But yeah, it's like I don't know that it. No, government's not meant to be managed by business people, because if it were, we wouldn't be in the mess we are now because of all the business people who previously ran on I'm a business person that have just made things worse.
And have made things better for business, right?
Yeah,
but not necessarily better for the people that they're supposed to be governing. Because
but some of those businesses don't realize that if people can't afford to buy your stuff, you don't remain a business much longer.
All they need to see is 3 months into the future, Ed. All they need to see is 3 months into the future.
Ed always wraps it up in a nice bow at the end.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jerry, for joining me this evening. I appreciate both of you for bringing in your commentary and always bringing so much context and so much added information to each and every story that I prepare. I appreciate you guys so much.
We love you, Kira. And so does Oreo.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love Oreo. Come on. So, Jerry, where can people see you next?
I will be returning. Well, I'll be joining, I think, Kit next Tuesday back on Hardlands Media. I will not be. Come on, buddy. I will not be broadcasting. I will not be live streaming this Friday night because we're all going to be at the Jimmy Dore show. So we are going to run a pre-recorded interview that Kit conducted with mayoral candidate Jamal Green before he announced. It's only a 27-minute interview, but since I won't be able to live stream Friday, we will have that interview up in the interim. Although I want to live stream with all the fallout from what's happening with what we've witnessed yesterday. Maybe I'll do a live stream on Saturday or Thursday. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'll be back definitely next Tuesday on Hardlands Media with Kit, and the following Friday here on Chicago Corner.
Awesome.
There you have it.
How about you, Ed?
I will be here whenever I am needed, because I'm not the pizza deep dish pizza enthusiast that the city wants, but I am the deep dish pizza enthusiast that the city needs.
That the city needs.
Hilarious.
The city needs. I got. You know what? I got to do a. I'll have to do a Dark Knight video drop in, but with that dialogue.
I love it. Let's do it. Awesome. And then for me, you can find me again next Tuesday, of course, right here on Chicago Corner. Otherwise, you can find me over at comfyfitness.com for all of your personal movement needs. So if you are looking to move more freely, whether it's in exercise, if you're dealing with pain in your exercise or discomfort, I'm your gal. Or if you are, starting out as a brand new beginner in the world of movement and exercise, you can come check us out. Or if you're just completely disenchanted with the world of exercise and you just don't know where to go, we are your people, comfyfitness.com. And just to answer the question about whether or not small businesses are being helped in all of these business dealings inside of our government, the answer is no, not my small business. That's for damn sure. But I think we all knew that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening and for all of your commentary. I hope you have a great Tuesday evening and a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.